All right, people, good afternoon. We've got another video about top 100 centers. Only a couple, but I got to tell you, after having a chance to dig in, I really like both of these guys. I really like both of these guys. I feel really good about them becoming Seahawks, and I hope it happens. I hope it happens because I believe this would be just about the perfect scenario for both of them, really. So, first up, we've got Luke Wypler of the Ohio State Buckeyes. 22 years old, 6'3", 303 pounds, classic center size more or less, 31 and 5/8 inch arms, 9 and 5/8 inch hands. Ran a 5.14.40, 101.83 10-yard split, so decent. 30 and a half inch vertical, 8 foot 10 inch broad, okay. 7.364 on his 3-cone, 4.53 on his 20-yard shuttle, 29 bench press reps, which is respectable. So, decent combine for Wypler. Little bit better than what we saw from Schmitz overall, I think. Better athlete. Not necessarily a better player, but already we're starting to see the fit. Already, with those combine scores, you can start to see what I'm trying to get at here when I talk about the fit. PFF really likes him. They think he's a second-round pick, but every other big board that I saw has him in the third. So Luke Wypler's probably a middle third-round guy, if I had to guess. Going to be available somewhere around there. He might go a little bit earlier because of a demand on centers, but we also have to remember there are going to be guys who go earlier in this draft, like Steve Avila, who may end up playing center in the NFL. So those guys might be more valued than a guy like Wypler. Honestly, Avila might be more valued than JMS. I don't know. His 2022 was well graded by PFF, 82.4 overall, 81 against the run, 84 with the pass, 86 in zone, only a 62.6 with gap, though, so clearly better in zone. Again, you're starting to maybe get it a little bit. Allowed 1 sack on C.J. Stroud and 7 QB hurries. I think he played pretty much every game, so really effective numbers, really effective run blocking and pass blocking from him. So here's the scoop on Wypler. He's got excellent technique despite not having that many starts in his ledger. I think he was a 2-year starter for Ohio State, but he's already a technician, already understands how to do the little things as a center to help you succeed, the things that aren't immediately obvious but end up helping get the job done. He's very good at keeping his balance. He's not somebody who's going to lunge. He's not somebody who's going to let his body get ahead of his feet. He's high IQ in understanding the subtle ways to gain advantage in pass protection, making sure that you keep your body over your feet, not letting your feet get too narrow because then you end up having a really weak anchor. Little things like that, and little advantages that you can gain against edge rushers, or excuse me, not edge rushers, but pass rushers up the middle. He's great working in space against smaller defenders. There are some centers who get out in space and then they can't quite get the hit down. They can't quite target the moving defender because they can just get around them. No, this guy's great in space. He knows how to find defenders at the second level really well. He's really good at pulling laterally along the line to hit like reach blocks and blocks on the other side of the line from where he started. He uses his smarts to overcome his strength limitations. This was a guy who brought a lot to the table in Ohio State, and for a guy who is so young and somewhat inexperienced, he brought a lot of positive stuff to the table, and I'd say Luke Wypler grew on me as this evaluation process went on. When I watched him play, when I looked into him, when I read what people said about him, I started to like him more and more. Now, he has the weaknesses you typically expect from a zone-based scheme center. He's not really strong. He doesn't have a ton of muscle. He's not really powerful. He's not going to just blow one tex off the point of attack. He's not going to clear space like a bulldozer for a running lane. He doesn't have great length, which is okay for a center, but there are going to be times when you just wish his arms were a little bit longer. He's going to lose battles because of that. Because of those two things, he can get pushed around a little bit. There are going to be matchups. There are going to be elite defensive linemen that, if they can get into a one-on-one with him, are just going to kind of push him around. And there's no real opportunity for him to fit in on any non-center position. I don't think this guy's ever going to be a good guard. Certainly not a tackle, so he's very one-dimensional, but I don't view that as really a problem. But there are some centers out there who can play guard, and that has to add a little bit of value to them. So I think that this guy Not only do I think he would be a great heir apparent to Evan Brown, but if it weren't for the fact that Carroll really doesn't like rookie centers, if he can get past that, Luke Wypler might be a guy who can step in, be better than Evan Brown, and help the offense get to a higher height. So I'm not saying it's super likely that happens, but at the very least, he's going to get to sit behind Evan Brown for a year. And then after the year is up, he's going to get to go out there and, as a second-year player who's gotten to learn under a veteran for a full season, take over and do great stuff. So I think he's pretty much the perfect center for this offense. Obviously, him having to sit a year is a little bit tragic because I do feel like he's ready now, but that time on the bench often helps. So I'm not going to argue against it. I'm not going to be upset about it. I would make him one of my top third-round targets at this point, one of the best. Almost need to bring him in. And if you don't, I would definitely make sure you bring this guy in. This is one of my other favorite centers in this class, Joe Tippman. Very, very similar take on him. I might like him a little bit more just because of the scenario. Maybe. Wisconsin Badger, 22 years old. A little bit on the taller side, which does create some problems, but he's a little bit bigger as well, generally speaking. 6'6", 313 pounds, 32 3/4 inch arms, 10 3/4 inch hands, so pretty long arms for a center, pretty big hands. He's just a big guy. And other than ESPN, which has completely missed the boat on this guy and has him going in the late 7th round, most of the big boards, a couple have him going in the 2nd, a couple have him going in the 3rd. The aggregate has him going in the 3rd. So it looks like he's going to be about a 3rd-round pick. And let me tell you, even though this guy didn't compete at the Combine, he didn't do the drills at the Combine, which is concerning a little bit, I really like what this guy is selling me right now. 2022, PFF graded him out pretty well. Not amazing, but almost 79 grade overall, 78.3 against the run, 79.2 against the pass, so extremely well-rounded. Very versatile as well. 77 in zone, 73 in gap. Allowed 1 sack, 2 hit, and 2 hurries all year on Wisconsin quarterbacks. So Joe Tippman brings a lot of positive things to the table here. And here's the thing with Tippman. He probably needs a little bit of time. He's probably not going to be all that great at first. And guess what? That's okay. We have Evan Brown for a year. Joe Tippman can sit without issue. And by year 2, when I think he'll have all these things together, he'll be ready to kill it. And I think he can be a Pro Bowl caliber center, no problem. The blend of strength and athleticism is rare. If you watch him play, I know he didn't do stuff at the Combine, but this guy's bigger than the average center. He's a really good athlete, works really well in space. He's like the best of both worlds with JMS and Wypler. The reason why Tippman isn't as high on the draft boards as Schmitz is because he doesn't have the consistency and refinement, but that can come with time that we have. He's sticky and strong against pass rushers. He latches really well, really good at using his hands to lash onto a pass rusher and not let go. So once he engages, he's hard to get off. He's a good mover in the run game. He's absolutely going to push defenders around to clear space. He's got good lateral movement when moving up and down the line of scrimmage, moving horizontally. He's smart in taking advantage of defenders who are out of control. Whenever they, lose their discipline and their patience trying to get around him, he's good at making sure that they don't get the drop on him. And his work at the second level is great. You can send him after linebackers, and he's up to the challenge. You can even have him block defensive backs at the third level, and he's up to it. Again, a lot of these centers, they miss, they whiff. They can't quite land the block. This guy showed the ability to do that at Wisconsin. He's very quick, and he's very physical. Once he engages in the trenches, he's willing to just use his leg drive to clear space. He's got high awareness, smart player. He's got great hands, like I said. He latches on really well, and he showed real ability to handle the line calls. Pick up this guy. You're blocking this guy. You're blocking that guy. You're doing this. You're doing that. Showed that ability, no problem at Wisconsin. There are issues with Tippman, mostly stemming, I think, from his height. He's tall, which means he's going to get beat in the leverage game sometimes. You'd prefer him to be a little bit closer to the ground. And I do think that that's something they may not be able to get around. The rest of the stuff, like sometimes he gets caught lunging a little bit. Technique could use a little bit of polish, like I said. His punch could be a little bit better. His balance sometimes gets a little bit. Sometimes he can get a little bit out of control when he's in open space, I think. Even though I think he's really, really good at doing it, sometimes he just loses control. So these are things that can be coached. These are things that can be fixed, and we have time to fix them. So Joe Tippman has become, maybe, just maybe, my top center target in this draft. I would probably, if you give me Wypler and Tippman and you say pick one, I think I would take Tippman. So he's got the highest upside to me of any scheme fit center in this draft. He could become the mix of Michael Schmitz and Wypler. And you give him that year to figure out his game, figure out what he's doing, work on his technique, become more consistent the way Schmitz is consistent. I think he would be maybe even an all-pro caliber center in the NFL level. I love this guy. This is a guy who absolutely grew on me even more than Wypler did the more I looked into him. I would make him a prime target in the third round, just as I said of Wypler. The advantage Wypler has is that he's more pro-ready now, but that might not matter. That might not matter because we have a starting center in Evan Brown, and Carroll seems like he's going to be resistant to the idea of having any rookie center play. Not something he really likes to do. So, that being the case, Joe Tippman is my top center target. And if we come home with Joe Tippman, I'm feeling very good about the future of this interior offensive line already. Not even knowing what we're going to do long term at the other guard spots, I'm feeling really good about the future in the hands of Joe Tippman of the Wisconsin Badgers. More centers coming tomorrow. See you guys later. That's the top 100, though. Go Hawks.